You can take your mask off now. Good evening, everyone. My name is Bill Curran. We're live from the Hoboken Historical Museum. Tonight we have another episode of Hoboken Talks, where we interview someone from the community. Before we begin, I just want to let you know that we're streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Also, I want to thank Rand Hoppy for making this all happen. Let's see. All our shows are archived on the YouTube channel, so please visit that to see this and others. I would like to introduce our guest for tonight, Jack Silbert. Good evening, Jack. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, Bill.
I first met Jack at story time at the Fire Department Museum. No, we didn't.
Not true.
Not true?
No.
Okay. I would like to read your bio first, if I may. I thought it was quite impressive. It says, Jack Silbert is a humor writer, journalist, children's author, editor, movie reviewer, weekly, internet DJ, frequent master of ceremonies. His writing has appeared in such publications as the New York Times, the New York Press, Weird, New Jersey Monthly, Nickelodeon, Glamour, Parent and Child, and a wide variety of websites, including Gawker, Media Darlings. During his lengthy tenure as editor at Scholastic Classroom magazines, he proudly accepted the AEP's Golden Lamp Award for Best Periodical 2009. Jack lives in Hoboken, New Jersey, and is fond of independent music, baseball, and it says here sandwiches, but I know it's meatball here. I mean, chicken parm heroes. Is that correct, Jack?
Both of those, sure.
Good. So, Jack, can you maybe begin? How did you actually end up in Hoboken?
I just wanted, because I watched one of these recently, the Hoboken Talks shows, and you've hosted, this is the second one that you've hosted?
Yes.
And, it's, these are like COVID days, pandemic days, and it doesn't seem like there's 6 feet between us.
No, but there is something that's... Come in.
Hello. So it's safety protocols are being followed.
Definitely.
To a T.
Definitely.
All right. It's waving back and forth.
Jack, since I had the pleasure of hosting Storytime with Jack at the Fire Department Museum when it was open, we had
it will be open again.
Yes. Yeah. How would you like...
Taking a little pandemic
break.
A pause.
Talking about a little pandemic break, how would you like to begin with a pandemic song about...
like we do at Sunday Storytime at the Hoboken Fire Museum.
Yes, to kind of liven up everything.
I'd love that. We always begin with a...
Which song would you like?
Well, don't we do the rules first?
The rules. I think I've read the rules. We are streaming live.
I thought the story, but we have story time rules, which I think apply.
Do you want to say them?
Well, that everyone should have a place to sit, right?
Yes.
And you can
open your...
Wait, but you can also sit on someone's lap. If you're in a pod with them, you can do that. Otherwise, not. Yes.
Open your ears.
Open your ears.
And on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3.
But they can make as much noise as because they're at home.
We can't hear them.
Right.
But do send...
we can see them, which is a little... I don't know what sort of program Rand is using, but the fact that we can see into people's homes, I think is a nice technological bonus.
I see we have a visitor. Frank Hanavan is saying, wow, special effects.
One of the great, what do they call it? En plein air. Thank you, artists.
And I just recently saw a bicycle painter. I don't know if I was allowed to say that, but I'd
What
like
is
to.
bicycle painter?
I saw something he was painting on while he
Oh.
was riding a bicycle.
Frank was
Frank.
painting?
Yeah. Isn't that fantastic?
That's very cool.
With that said, I think we need to keep the comments coming in, please.
There's Lou Cassiano, who started the CERT team in Hoboken.
That's
Another
another
great
area.
guy.
That's another area which you so give all of your time to help us out in Hoboken.
Well, we have a 6-hour show, so we can get into all of it. No, it's
Okay.
just an hour.
Why don't we start with your song choice? Was it going to be this?
This is one that we sing at the museum, and I miss performing this with you.
Okay, you want to sing it together?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right. The wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round. The wheels on the bus go round and round, all through the town.
The wipers on the bus go
swish, 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 swish. The wipers on the bus go swish, 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 all through the town. The doors on the bus go open and shut, open and shut, open and shut. The doors on the bus go open and shut, all through the town.
The wipers on the bus.
Get the wipers already.
Oh, the driver
on the bus says, "Move on back, move on back, move on back." The drivers on the bus go, "Move on back, all through the town." The babies on the bus go, "Wah, wah, 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 wah." The babies on the bus go, "Wah, wah, wah," all through the town. The mommies on the bus go, "Shh, shh, 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 shh." The mommies on the bus go, "Shh, shh, shh," all through the town. Hooray!
Hooray for Hoboken Talks. Welcome, everybody. We have our guest as tonight, as I introduced before, Jack Silbert. Jack Silbert, so tell us, begin. How did you end up in Hoboken? How are we so blessed to have a resident like you?
Well, I'll give you a couple of minutes. Like normally, if we were at story time, I would start reading a story to the kids. But since it's mostly adults, I'll tell my own story, just very shortly, and I'll lead up to the Hoboken, and then I'll...
Maybe we'll see some slides.
All right, we can, maybe. So I was...
Get closer.
What? Like this close?
Now's your chance, Frank.
Carol is, Carol.
Carol.
Carol?
I wish he said hello, Bill.
Carol, back in the day, used to work at... Do you know what I'm pointing to?
Heaven.
Maxwell's.
Like the back.
Yes, the famous...
Really?
The famous rock club.
Did you ever perform there, Jack?
Did I ever perform? No, I'm not a musician.
I know you emceed there.
Not when it was truly Maxwell's, no. Let's see if anybody's home at Maxwell's. No. All right.
All right.
So I was born in Connecticut, of all places. My family moved to northern New Jersey, Morris Plains, if anyone is familiar with that area.
Morris Plains.
Then we went to California, the Bay Area of California. My family. My dad was on the run from the law, so that's why we. He had a job with the VA, the hospital system, the food and retail sales within those hospitals. So it moved us around the country. a bit. So we were in the Bay Area of California, then back to the East Coast and to Maryland for a couple of years. And then up to New Jersey, where I went to middle school and high school. Then I went to college in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where I majored in creative writing. That's what I did there. And then I when I graduated, after a while, I got a job in Central Jersey, in Ewing, actually. And so I was living here, and then I was not thrilled in that job. And I really wanted to work in New York City, the bright lights and all that. And while I was in college, I had gotten an internship with Scholastic Classroom Magazines, which was the company was mentioned in my bio there. So I was hired back, as like an assistant editor while I was, but I was still living in Central Jersey, and it was, to be in your early 20s, you want to have like a social life, an active social life. So I'd go out after work and I'd be on like the last train back from Penn Station to Princeton Junction, and I'd drive home and I'd fall and I'd sleep for a couple hours and I had to wake up and get on the train and go back. And it was wearing me out. And I had a buddy at work, Joe, who he was living with his folks at the time, and he was kind of getting tired of that situation. So we talked about getting a place. And I think I've always thought that people who come to New York from other parts of the country, maybe they'll move to like Brooklyn or something to get an apartment. But if you grew up in New Jersey, I don't know. I think people like it and they kind of want to stay on the Jersey side of the river. So we talked about it, and I had been to Hoboken, I think, a couple of times before. I had met my had a college friend. She's still a friend. She's a dear friend, Sheila. And kind of where I was living in Central Jersey, where she was living, kind of we met halfway. And both, I think the first two times I came, I was to go to Maxwell's, which was, was and is legendary. It just doesn't exist anymore, but the legend remains. So Joe agreed that it would be it's a convenient place to the city. And I was very excited to be in the town that had both Maxwell's and there was Pierre Platter's record store, with very famous, and so I had a girlfriend in New York, so instead of again taking the train back and forth, to just be able to get on the PATH train and be there in 20 minutes was fantastic.
Wow.
So there you go.
Sounds like you went kind of full circle.
You could say that, yeah, sure.
So you moved to Hoboken. Your room.
That was 1994. For those, I know there are people at home doing a chart.
And I believe we were neighbors. I was at 152 Newark Street. You were 154 Newark.
It's at 154 Newark, next to the Cleaners, which is now a pizza place.
Any good? Oh.
I think that there's too much detergent in the sauce. No, that's a joke. No, it's great. It's great. It's in the place. What's it? Veriza something? It's not Verizon. It's
Hello. What's the name of the?
But it's like it's artisanal, so it's going to cost you a little more. But it really, for me, like once a month or so, it's a nice little treat. Yeah. But anyway, you were 152.
I was 152, and you were 154.
And yet we didn't know each other. It would be many years
Yes.
until we met each other.
Yes.
Do
I remember where I met you?
Yeah.
Even though I said it was.
You said it was at Story Times.
I met you here. I think it was one Thanksgiving. Or I gave an art class and you took it.
All these things are true, but maybe not in the correct order.
And I think I might not be. And we can also throw in the church.
Yes. Well, yes. That
solidified the relationship.
Exactly. You crystallized my thoughts eloquently, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
But I had met you here at the museum. Yes, you're employed by the museum.
Yes.
In addition to being a fine artist.
Yes.
Not in plein air, but sometimes, but oil paintings.
Mm-hmm.
People can go to Bill Curran Art. No,
BillCurran.net.
BillCurran.net.
Yes.
If they want to see your work.
Yes.
And you're on Instagram at
Bill Curran Art.
You don't have to whisper.
Well, you're talking. I'm supposed to be doing the interview.
I've turned the tables.
And what's your website, jacksilbert.com?
No, that's not true. What were we talking about?
Meeting each other.
So I met you at the museum. I think probably with my
parents, it was Thanksgiving.
They would come up for many Thanksgivings in a row to this area, and we'd meet up with my uncle. But brought him to the museum. I think I'd already met you. But that was very nice. And then flash forward to Superstorm Sandy,
October 2012.
Exactly. We found ourselves on the one block in town that had power, and specifically a place that welcomed people inside. Now, I had not been. Maybe I had been inside there before, but I wasn't a regular customer, let's say, of that's the
St. Peter and Paul.
St. Peter and Paul. Almond Joy has nuts. Mounds don't. No, wait. I don't know. So you could go in there into the church.
But only till a certain time. Remember, they kicked us out like at 11 o'clock.
Well, they had to do the services, and it was still functioning as a church. Now, I'm not of the the Catholic faith. Raised a Jewish
boy.
Sort of secular humanist, I guess you could describe me. But they opened the doors to all, and you could. It was a place that was warm, and also they opened up their outlets.
You could charge your phone.
You could charge your devices. And there were regulars there, and we were two of and yes, I think absolutely our friendship solidified. And this is something I've said a number of times, but now I'm going to say it on the record. I had described you as an odd bird. And our friend Patrick said, well, that's an insult or whatever? And maybe to someone else it would be, but birds of a feather flock together. Like, I think we're both a little off. You disagree?
No, in a good way.
In a good way. Right, in a good way.
You with music, me with art.
And other things. So I to me that, for me to say he's odd bird, it's a big compliment.
I'm glad you told me this now.
Maybe I wouldn't have been invited.
Don't expect any Valentine's Day. No.
And so from that week, just the
We
friendship,
gelled.
we gelled.
Because it was very cold out and we had no
gelled.
heat. I mean,
And you gave me a hint, which I think people should remember in the winter, because you go home to your cold apartments. And what advice did you give me there?
Always sleep underneath the always put the blanket underneath the mattress.
Well, not under the mattress.
Oh, underneath your body, because the heat rises.
So like a blanket underneath you, and then a blanket on top of you.
And you said that worked.
It worked like a charm.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So that brings us up to what was your first introduction to the museum like? I know you're so giving of your time, extraordinaire volunteer. I don't call you a volunteer. What was some of your first experiences with the museum? How'd you get involved with the museum?
Just an interesting thing about you mentioned volunteering.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were telling me about the kind of things they do. And I said, "Oh, that's cool that you're doing that." But then they explained that they got every other week they received money for doing it. And I was like, "No, wait, you're supposed to do it for the good of your, from your heart." It was a weird concept. Mm. So I'm gonna look into this.
You hear that?
The museum is great. It's not gigantic. I remember I was just the last exhibit that opened here. I was talking to someone who had never. They said, "Is there more to the museum?" I'm like, "No, this is it.
This is it."
But it's plenty, where you have. I don't know if people haven't been here. It's at 13th and Hudson in Hoboken, and it just costs like a few bucks to get in if you're not a member.
Free parking, free 3-hour parking.
Free 3-hour parking, and then so downstairs there's always a main exhibit, where I think that's where the size of the museum. Even if we were in a gigantic museum, an individual exhibit would be the size that's in this museum. So you're not missing out on anything. It's just, instead of the permanent collection here isn't on display, it's I think it's at Rand's house. I think. I'm not 100% sure, but I think
that's collections. Rand's house is the collection space.
No, but in his apartment, yeah. It's like in his closet, in his beet cellar. Is this thing? Hello.
Testing.
No, so the permanent collection is stored away.
Correct.
But you can see it all online.
Yes. HobokenMuseum.org.
Sure. And so yeah, downstairs is usually a history-based, usually based either Hoboken or the local, Hudson County. And then upstairs is an art exhibit by, again, usually a local painter, photographer. There've been some 3-dimensional pieces of art. I guess that's
sculptures.
Less often, but still welcome. So I came here, sporadically in the years where I worked. I had the office job through 2011. With most people that live in town but work somewhere else, my time here in town was kind of limited. You come home, you're tired. So really, it would only be on a weekend or something that I could come see. So it would have to be a particularly compelling exhibit or something that to draw me here. And I believe I started to do just a little bit of volunteering. you know. Just, I don't know. I've always, if somebody needs a hand, why not? I don't know. It feels good to do that. And then I left the Scholastic Classroom magazines, and I became a freelance writer, and working at home. And the thing about working at home is they suddenly have a whole lot more free time. And I started devoting a lot more time to the museum, but also the Friends of the Library. I've been affiliated with them for many years. After Sandy, I joined the CERT team, which we saw, Commander Lou Cassiano popped up on the comments board before, but that's the Community Emergency Response team. If we have time, maybe we talk a little more about that later. But signed up for that. Through that, Rose, who had been honored with a chapbook here at the museum. She wrote me into, she's like, you're doing this volunteer, come do this volunteer. The Fund for a Better Waterfront started helping them out with their annual events. And and then WFMU. Have you heard of this? It's
Radio.
Based in Jersey City, over in the Exchange Place area, 91.1 on your FM dial, or WFMU.org, streaming worldwide. And that is a non-profit, volunteer staffed, free-form station. And we could talk about that also. I love music. I love, going to Maxwell is some of the just happiest times of my life. And so I hadn't been able to volunteer at the radio station when I had a job, but again, then not having a job, turns out you're not always busy. It'd be nice if you're always busy when you're freelance, but sometimes you're less busy. So so I picked up the volunteering there as well.
And also you're, I believe, a new board member to the library?
That's more recent. Yeah, that's in the past couple of years that Alan, he was stepping down from the board, Alan Kratz. And he asked if I would want to, you apply, they don't just, I guess the mayor has
volunteer.
The power to just,
I nominate. You get nominated. I would think you'd make a good board.
I guess you could be nominated, but also anyone can apply for an open board position in town. Having Alan's blessing, I think, helped, but I still had to apply and be accepted by the mayor's office. And this will tie into a story later, but Alan called and said, well, would you apply? Would you fill out the application? And I'm like, and you have to get it notarized. And I'm like, I'm in the hospital right now, but maybe I can. Long story short, my friend Karen, dear friend, who among other things has a law degree, she came to the hospital and signed off on the forms, and I was able to get them in. And it was good that I did that right then, because 6 to 8 months later, I was named to the to the board. So
I think why don't we take a short break here? I see we're about halfway through the program. What if before we talk about, you had said you had been in the hospital. I know you
yeah,
wanted to possibly talk briefly about your experience. Why don't we go to the slides and just
let's
take
go to
a
this.
break?
And also,
People have,
if they have any questions
yes.
about things we've talked about or things we haven't talked about, I think Frank Hanavan is a bit of an odd bird.
Very
I
talented.
think we can say that fairly. But you can type them in on your, your computer machines there.
Yes.
Not on a typewriter. That you have to mail to us. Well, we'd have to do a sequel where we would read mailed in. But if you're on Twitter or on Facebook or on YouTube, any of those, you type in the comments your question or comment, and then through the magic of the technology, there's an aggregator, and it takes all the comments. And again, it goes through Rand's apartment, and then it comes out on the screen here.
Thank you for that breakdown. So these are just some slides of Jack in action from, I guess, when you were a little bit younger to current.
Well, anything but taken before right now, would be younger, sure. But this was I was emceeing. Hey, Lois.
Hey, Lois.
How are you doing?
That looks
Lois?
nice. That picture.
This was at Mo Pitkins. Was a lovely venue in the
Mo Pitkins.
East
That wasn't
Village.
in Hoboken.
No. A great place.
And you were the MC, I take it.
I enjoy to host performances.
Are you available for parties?
Absolutely. If anyone has an event.
He's the man.
I guess I could do it on Zoom. You made a little funny. We'll talk about that later. But
what's this? The Big Book of Sharks? What does that have to do with Hoboken?
My whole life isn't hope. So working at Scholastic and being sort of like a journalist for kids. But any sort of journalist, I think, to me, one of the fun things about it is you become an expert on a certain subject, and then in a week or 2 weeks, you're done with that, and then you're becoming an expert in another subject. I love that. I love learning about new things. That's why I love the museum. Go back to the shark thing.
Ow! Did you design the posters too?
I modeled for them. Baby Shark. That's another song that we do. So then when I became a freelancer, any job that you could get, writing job, you got to pay the bills. But this was a fun one. Somebody had, they needed a writer for, this is, as you can see on this, connected with Shark Week on the Discovery Channel. They needed someone to write this, the Big Book of Sharks, from what's the best shark? You're looking at him. No, that's a reference to the Right Stuff. If people ask the test pilots who's the best pilot they ever saw, the answer was Chuck Yeager, because he was the greatest of all time. But instead of saying Chuck Yeager, they would just kind of jokingly say, "Hey, you're looking at him. I'm the best." I like what shark do you like? I like those little sharks. But so yeah, I wrote a book about sharks, and it was for ages 8 to 88. And the only reason I wanted to go back to this one was because when I told my parents that I was leaving this Scholastic job that I'd had for 19 years, there were a lot of people, including my tax guy, my friend Bob, my dad, who were like, I don't know if that was the right, decision. You got the regular check, and the benefits and when the Big Book of Sharks was available on the shelves in CVS. CVS, my dad said, you knew what you were doing. I didn't know with the freelancing, but now I had made it. That the Big Book of Sharks was in CVS.
I hope you signed all the copies. I think it's time to move on to
it's still available, but I have a flat rate. This, my eyes, I can't.
You do like
wait,
humor. I know you like.
I think
humor.
my cataracts are acting up.
You're
I can't.
Too young. 1752.
So this was for Scholastic. While there, they would, you were encouraged if you had time to work for other divisions.
Mm-hmm.
For any of my music people tuning into this, this is a time traveler character, went to different points in American history, and his name is Scooter McGinty, and the McGinty was named after Joe McGinty of the Losers Lounge, who they performed at the Jerry Fallows Arts and Music Festival. And they're doing some, online things now during the. So that was just a little tip of the cap because we like that name McGinty.
McGinty.
So, but that was Joe, who had been my roommate from 1994 to 2000, and then I think around 2003 we wrote that book together.
Cool.
A popular one. This was cool.
All.
This was when I was a freelancer later, where this is the first ebook I ever wrote, which, you can read that on your Kindle and on your phone and stuff. But that was, he was still with us when I was working on it, but it was kind of, I was kind of racing against the clock a little bit, but it one of the all-time greats, Damn, not the book. Book's pretty good.
Looks like you were covering many subjects.
Hey, Tim, fellow Laura Cantrell fan there.
Math mysteries.
This was the first book that I ever wrote. And it was, again, meeting people from other departments at Scholastic. And I was on the math magazines, which was weird for a English major, who didn't take much math in college, but 7th grade math, I could figure that out, So we would go to the math teachers conventions and try to, if they didn't know about our products, we would show them. And then there were people from other branches of Scholastic, and I met these people from like the teaching resources, professional books. So they said, would you like to come up with and I wrote this, I think it's the, I suggested it be the Defective Detective Agency, and they thought that was too negative, so we made it the Effective Detective Agency. But this, little group of young, wannabe detectives using mathematical problem-solving strategies to solve mysteries.
Interesting.
And
does her shirt say math power?
Yes, it does. I didn't do the pictures in that. This is the first non-educational book that I wrote, and it's they you'll hear a cliche. It's not what you know, it's who you know. But I think it's both. I think it is who you know, but if you don't know what, then you won't. Yeah. So my editor, Jackie Glassthal at Scholastic, had moved on to Golden Books, who I think were merging with Random House at that time. But they came up with a title called The Christmas Aliens, and they needed someone to write it. And she knew that I was like wacky, again, like an odd bird. And I remember I wrote that on a Greyhound bus going up to Boston. There was a Whoopi Goldberg movie on but it didn't. And I wrote the first draft. I think it may have been Sister Act. Yeah, I think part 1. And that was so great to have. Yeah, that's absolutely a high point of a
foot in the door,
my life.
Golden Books.
And yeah, it's funny. Well, I thought, oh, now I'm going to be a kid book writer. My life is totally going to go off in that direction. But it didn't. I continued to work at Scholastic for 19 years. But that's all right.
Do you have any book ideas to do in Hoboken? That since it seems that books are in your history.
Oh, like when I was a little kid, I read the Hoboken Chicken Emergency by Daniel Pinkwater and wondered, what is this place Hoboken, and how do they have giant chickens there?
Before you got here, you read that?
Yeah, I was just a kid.
Wow.
That's a children's book. He's done a couple of Hoboken-based books, but yeah, I might have a notion or two
up your sleeve.
I haven't worn a shirt with buttons in a while. This is just a
spin-off.
It was reissued. The book was reissued with the original title that I suggested, which was Santa. They had said write a book called The Christmas Aliens, and I said, well, how about if it's called Santa in Space? And they printed the book called The Christmas Aliens. But then they decided to put it out again, and as Santa in Space. For publishing nerds, you can see it's no longer a die cut; it's a pure rectangle. And this had the distinct pleasure of this reissue came out September 2001. So that was really flew off the shelves there. So I'm still not a famous kids author.
Oh, that looks very...
This, I hope nobody from New Jersey Monthly is watching. No, I have, the photographer lives right here in town, Gary Spector.
He'll be having a show here in the next few months.
What?
Yes.
He's an amazing photographer. And my friend Chris Janone, who's a musician as well and has an album out on, you can go to the Bandcamp, CR and the Nuns, NONES. Great record. But anyway, he had been writing a sandwich column on the New Jersey Monthly website. And it took after it because you mentioned that I wrote for the New York Times. So I had been writing little roadside restaurant reviews, and you kind of maybe want to write something bigger, and so it was the same for this nice guy, Chris. He said, hey, how about an article about you doing story time at the Fire Museum? And I said, sure. Sure, because it helps him and might help more people come to story time. Only problem was that, we've got this pandemic, so you can see the sweet kid on the right. He's got the mask, and so we since March we haven't had the story time.
Yes.
But I've been doing them every week
Virtually.
from home, or a couple of times Bob Foster from the museum has filmed me in some different locations. But so if people search for me on YouTube, if they want to, each week there's a new story, and the library has been a great, because I had a certain number of children's books at home, just from knowing people in the business and stuff, but it's been a long pandemic, so the library, it's been great to be able to request any children's book, and then through the Buckles lending system, boom, it shows up at the library, and they've had these incredible COVID protocols in place where if you don't feel comfortable going in the library, they put it in a locker outside. You can go at any time of the day or night.
That's fantastic.
Or if you want to, you can go in and put it on a special shelf, and again, you don't have to touch any. And there's a lot of plexiglass also. How are we doing on time? We
looks like we have about 15 minutes. I think this might be the last slide, but you had said that you were in the hospital and you needed to get a signature. Was it because of?
Yeah, as now if you're good at like Where's Waldo or something like that, what's different about this picture?
They're all sitting on the floor.
They're sitting on the floor, and there's like little mats on the floor. That's a little weird. But I would say the fact that the guy reading the story has, freakish robot legs is, that was a weird thing for me. And that was just in 2016. I had I ended up in the hospital with stomach trouble, which somehow led to infection, and the infection spread down to my legs, down to my feet, caused blood clots, caused gangrene, which is not good. And again, long story short, both my legs had to be amputated below the knees to prevent the gangrene from spreading farther. And I was in the hospital for 3.5 months, I guess, from the end of August 2016, and I didn't come home till mid-December. It was weird to come home, and the August magnet calendar still was on my refrigerator. And I was in a wheelchair at that time, and then was home for a couple of months because with any kind of amputation, the leg, the residual limb is kind of swollen, and it takes a while for it to kind of shrink down to its natural size. And also the wound, it's a wound. I mean, they not fun. I mean, they put you out. It's not like they're like, here, bite on this, and we're a joke that I didn't come up with because the amputation was at Hackensack, which is the greatest, hospital. And somebody said, "Oh, they hack it and they put it in a sack." I thought that was a good joke.
What do they do with the sack?
I guess they throw it in the Raritan. But yeah, so it takes the wound has to heal enough that it can withstand, being inside the prosthetic.
Mm-hmm.
So then I went back around this time of year, Valentine's Day, 2017,
Mm-hmm.
and I like to give them a shout out anytime I can. But the Kessler Institute for Rehabilitation, I went to the one in Saddlebrook, New Jersey, but the one in West Orange is equally good. They're different
Mm-hmm.
specialties, and I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to. I'm not supposed. Rance asked me not to pound on the table.
That's right.
Reverberates. Give us any rule, we'll break it. But I was there twice. I was there 3 weeks while I was in a wheelchair, and then I was there for 3 weeks learning how to walk again, and very emotional. You can imagine that I had some extreme lows, and I'm a pretty upbeat guy. So
you are.
Thank you, Mr. Eric Kammer. I put a nice comment there. And so then 3 weeks, learning to walk, and by the time I left there, and it was like early March 2017, I really felt like these people had these physical therapists, occupational therapists, nurses, doctors, janitorial staff, administrators, activities people, food staff. They gave me my life back. I felt like a lesser version of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's time goes by, and but I'll never ever forget. I'll never stop being thankful for everyone who helped me, and not just the professional people who helped me, but friends, people came out of the woodwork literally, and people I hadn't worked with in 20 years. A couple of bands that I followed in high school, the Pogues, the Smithereens, remember these bands contributed to my GoFundMe campaign. It's just overwhelming, the kindness, and my parents, and they were old, and they had to come up from Maryland and sit in a. I don't wish this for any of you to be in a hospital room for 3 months with your elderly parents sitting in these chairs there, because you run out of stuff to talk about pretty quick, I first felt bad that, how are we doing on time, that I put my folks through this, but then my dad has since passed. I kind of thought, it gave him a chance to kind of step up once more, and really
I met them one
that's
night.
his boy, lying there. So I don't know, maybe there was some positive stuff there. And there was one night there with my mom, and she was like, she had a little envelope, and she was like, Bill gave, this money. And I cried so many times during that, but thank you for a little contribution to the cause. Also appreciate it.
With the few minutes we have left, Jack, thank you so much for sharing that moving story. It sounds like what you've been through now.
And I didn't do the story time before that. Okay, maybe I know we just have a few minutes, but I did just want to kind of connect the dots, because a thing about suddenly being disabled, and you focus a lot on what you can't do anymore. And I think I turned a corner when I started thinking more about, well, what can I do, rather than, but not being able to volunteer as with like CERT, there's a lot of physical stuff, and even just walking around the waterfront, during certain events and things, like I can't walk for extended periods of time. I can't, fund for a better waterfront, lift these heavy things. I can't really do that as well as I did before, and that was a blow to me, that I couldn't do that stuff. But then I thought about, well, story time, I could do that. I can sit in a chair as well as anybody, and I had done some reading to kids at Scholastic. We would go to schools, and so that's been a great thing for me. It kind of, hey, here's something I can do equally. And as I said in that article, the kids don't judge, Yeah, I can't wait till we're back at the Fire Museum on Sundays.
I will put a plug in. If you've never seen Jack in action, reading a book, please do check out one's on our YouTube channel. He is very good at that.
Eric Kammer, how has being in a walking town like Hoboken changed for you? Not too much. I still walk most places that I go, depending on how, if I have to rush somewhere, I'll drive, and I do drive. Kessler, West Orange, I learned to drive with hand controls, which has been, that returned a lot of freedom to me, which is great. But if I have the time, I'll walk. I just usually have to sit on a bench or in a stoop and rest just for a couple of minutes, and then I'll get up and go the rest of my way. And people have been awesome. Like I go to well, not now, I don't go to concerts, but pre-pandemic, I call up and I ask for a chair, because I can't stand for the whole show. I can stand up for like 15 minutes and I dance around.
You do like to dance.
I loves to dance, but people have been awesome. Like I go into Tunes record store, and whoever's working there, they give up their own chair, so I'll have a place to rest while I'm browsing. People have been pretty awesome. Yeah.
Well, I think you're pretty awesome for all that you do for Hoboken. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill.
Is there anything I haven't asked you that in our last minute or two you might want to share, or sing, or
who's your favorite fine artist?
Who's my favorite?
Yeah.
Well, it's you when you draw. You want to draw something?
Let's draw. Yeah. Is there a theme song and the credits start rolling and we're just drawing?
Why don't you draw? So I'm going to give you.
Who's that artist you really love, though?
Fairfield Porter.
It's great.
Fairfield Porter. Yeah. So why don't you draw something? We'll end on. I'll give you like a 5-minute art lesson. What would you want to draw? A face? You do characters pretty well. You want to draw my face?
Yeah, I'll try.
Well, take a minute or two. I'm not sure how we got into this, but
I think I don't know how this works. I think the show's over, but
I think we could go for just a few minutes after.
A little bit longer there.
I have a Christmas card from you, and I remember you you drew all these characters, like with a thumb you made it into a chicken, and a banana like a farmer or something. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Should I be looking?
Well,
Is your mother a writer?
my mom was a teacher,
There you go.
and then later was like a teacher's aide.
I love that you said you're a journalist for kids.
Yeah, well, even adult journalists are still writing at like a 7th grade level. It's not. This is
Pick any color. Oh, I'm glad I shaved this morning. That's pretty cool. No neck?
I lost my crayon.
Oh, don't give me too many wrinkles. Those are seagulls. Is my chin? Oh. Is my chin? Is it that big? That is very good. I really like that, Jack.
It looks just like
that is fantastic. So it was nice to see you both. You too, Ian. Miss you. Thank you for checking in.
Ian. Best of the dogs and the little woman.
You mean Pretty Woman?
Walking down the street, pretty woman.
Okay, everyone.
Bill, thank you for inviting me. Who's on the show next week?
Oh, thank you for so much. Let me see. We have 2 guests. Next week, the director of the museum, Bob Foster. He will be interviewing artist and gallerist Issa Sao.
Oh, Issa's great.
In conversation with Bob Foster. And the following Thursday, Ran Hoppy will be interviewing Stevens Institute archivist Leah Laskatov on February 25th. So please do join us.
I was glad that because there's been a lot of dudes on the show, so that's nice that you mixing it up a little bit.
So thank you very much for joining us on Hoboken Talks, and we hope to see you again.
Thanks, Danny. Danny was on the show last week. You can look at it.